Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, what is up? The King of Lightning is here today, bringing you guys and gals Toriko. Toriko, chapter 358 review. Now, as always, if you have not seen the live reaction to the chapter, there will be an annotation right here, as well as a link in the box below. Now, this chapter, Toriko, well, before I get started, right, before I go any further, yesterday, I was celebrating my B-Day, the day when I was birthed into the world, when the globe shouted cries of joy, a king is born, a king is born, and that king is I. Yeah. Now, that being said, it's only 24 hours, but by you existing, you celebrate my birth. What up with that? Huh? Yeah. Talk about an ego trip. But that being said, this chapter of Toriko. So, today is a Monday, right? And I was really hoping to get more clarification on the whole Red Universe bit. And how the Nitro are always referring to, like, the Red Universe or whatnot as their world and our world through the Gourmet Hold. So what do they mean by world? Do they mean a section of space? Do they mean a galaxy? Do they mean the entire universe? So I was hoping with the Batauto translation, we would get more details on this matter at hand. However, no. In fact, it becomes more convoluted because not only do they keep on referring, in this translation, they continue to refer to this section of space as world, but also they call it the red space as opposed to the red universe, which makes it even more convoluted. Yay! So when you say space, do you mean this section of space? Do you mean the galaxy? Do you mean the universe? Like, what do you mean by space? Universe is far more clear-cut than space. So this is unfortunate, which may mean I can't guarantee that I'll do it. But I may have to go to the Viz Shonen Jump like subscription thing, subscribe to that just to get that translation of Toriko. Though maybe I'm wrong about this, but since the Batauto translations come out on Monday, doesn't that mean that they're using the Viz translation too? Maybe? But let me not focus on that too much because that's something that I can figure out later on. So first, or we may actually get more detail on later on. So let's actually talk about the chapter itself. Number one, the pacing. The pacing overall is actually relatively fine because you have the narration for like the majority of the chapter. Then around page 12, the narration ends, and then we get back to Gigi and Sunny and company. So that was most of the chapter. And then it is the reaction on the part of Sunny and company, Rampaging Beast Jiro, and then Toriko and Starjin, Midori and Joey as well. Because it's that information being spread throughout all the major parties in this particular event. And that's really it. And then it ends off with a setup of Don Slime versus Neo Demon. What I'm hoping for is not something along the lines of, let's say, Toriko and Starjin versus Guinness, but like a Starjin versus Toriko, or a Toriko versus Tommy Rod length battle, where it's several chapters long, like 3 chapters of just Neo versus Don Slime. Oh man, that would be good. That would be delicious, man. You would love that. A battle of gods. Yeah, that would be something that I would relish, honestly. And then we go from there to Jiro versus the Blue Nitro. I mean, because Jiro, he's been pulling a DBZ. He's been standing there powering up for like 50 chapters. Let's make it happen. Seriously, all right? And then Midori and Joey, like Midori, he's been punking her. Like, but I still can kind of see the death flag somewhere when it comes to Midori and Joey on the part of Midori. I can still kind of see it, but right now he's been just slaughtering. So, I mean, and what's kind of cool is that at the end of the chapter of the Batauto translation, what they say here involving the Don Slime versus Neo battle is, and I have the page saved, A battle that will change the world, literally. Like, well, maybe not literally, but they just say a battle that will change the world. I'm hoping literally because these two are gods. A clash of two titans in this case on Batoto. Now, when it comes to story progression, you have that, obviously, again, you have the Don Slime versus Neo Demon setup, so that applies for both the story progression as well as the pacing. You have a lot of intel about the Gourmet Demon Resurrection, which is very important stuff pertaining to the Gourmet Demons as well as Neo itself. And how Neo, it came back from a fucking supernova. And it's because, to a certain degree, the law of energy conservation applies in the universe, in this red universe. And that is the reason why Gourmet Demons can come back continuously and be resurrected, because some energy that comprises them will always remain. Therefore, over the course of time, that energy will once again reform into that Gourmet Demon. The same thing applies to Neo. However, there is a massive exception for Neo in particular, but that's more so for characterization. So that was very good to find out how in this universe there are certain laws. Gourmet Demons have to follow said laws if they want to resurrect. When it comes to story, the last thing is not like set in stone, but there may be something being set up here where Komatsu mentions how Neo, he probably hasn't consumed anything that is gonna fill him in earnest. So if he can actually cook something that can satiate Neo's hunger, then you could possibly stop his rampage. I'm very afraid that's gonna happen. I am horrified about that because I'm like, dude, like this is no, please. I want a Mugen Kugi Punch to win. Mugen Kugi Punch, that's what I want to see. And you blast Neo into deep space with infinite energy, but I don't see it happening because the laws of conservation of energy apply to some degree here. I'm hoping that there may be some leeway in favor of the true Mugen. That's what I'm hoping for. Not cook him a meal and he's done. Like, no, that to me would be lame as shit. And hold on, wait, there is also the fact for story that we are learning about the red universe now. Either it's the red universe or the red space, whatever it is, it's the red something. And there was someone in the comment section of the live reaction. That person, I think his name was Revenant, I think it was. But that person stated that when it comes to Toriko's two Gourmet Demons, red and blue, maybe that applies to the universes that they can consume food from. So in the case of Toriko's red, the reason why he's getting most of the consumption of food now is because they're in the red universe. So blue would consume most of the food if they were in the blue universe. Maybe. But at the same time, blue did eat the air fruit that Komatsu cooked in Area 8. So it may not be all of the ingredients that reside within the universe, but maybe most of the ingredients would go for red because he's in the red universe. And most of the ingredients in the blue universe would go to blue because they're in, again, the blue universe. So let's say the third Gourmet Demon side Toriko could consume the food from both universes just fine, or would it be he has his own universe? Like, let's say the black universe where he has to kind of, like, maybe. I don't know. It's fascinating. It's very fascinating. But all in all, it is that notion of there being at least a separate section somewhere out there, whether it be a universe or galaxy or somewhere else in the Milky Way, where one is red-oriented and one is blue-oriented. So overall story was actually pretty good. Now finally, when it comes to characterization, this is where we have both good and bad things. I'm going to probably say it's leaning more towards good, but there is still some bad here. And the bad is the fact that all this Neo stuff is done. That's the way it seems. From his characterization, through narration, and, you know, like the past events, it's done. Which I think sucks. Because all we're getting from Neo is the fact that he's powerful as shit, and he's creepy as fuck. Like, those two by themselves are not bad. But when it comes to the overall characterization of the would-be final villain of this entire series, need more than just creepy and powerful. Like, do you see what I'm saying? Like, we need a lot more than that for the final villain of an entire series spanning over 350 plus chapters. But we may get more. In fact, what may happen is Neo as a final villain may be substituted somehow, some way for Akasia himself. Possibly. Because Acacia clearly has more characterization and character development than Neo. Technically, what they're fighting against is Neo Demon Acacia. But on the good side, it's pretty freaking bonkers. Let's start with something really fucking crazy. So, if you want to compare Batoto to Manga Stream, there is one panel on page 4 of Manga Stream and on page 3 of Batoto. It says, and I quote, "In truth, at this point, Neo's victims were already vast, reaching far and wide. The creatures that had thrived on these planets for millions of years were all wiped out by his might." Now that is the Manga Stream translation. However, on the Batoto translation, there's something a lot different. It's like, different. So, and I quote, "Fact, at this time, the damage done by Neo had already spread far and wide. It was moving at a force where it was chasing all creatures of millions of planets to extinction." It was moving at a force where it was chasing all creatures of millions of planets to extinction. So Neo Demon was wiping out creatures throughout millions, not hundreds, not thousands, not tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, millions of planets. Millions of planets. We're talking about a life wiper on an unprecedented scale. Like this, nigga. Yeah, millions of worlds. Millions of planets. Millions of planets. Neo's a freak, man. So that's number 1. Number 2 is going to be something that relates to the whole Gourmet Demon resurrection bit. Because Neo had apparently died several times throughout its Feeding Frenzy campaign. It had died because of a very fierce fighting species had killed it, and they show you pictures of Don Slime. I think it's Red, and I think it's Saiyan Hair. I'm pretty sure those two are Red and Saiyan Hair. I don't doubt it at all. And on top of that, Neo had also died because of a supernova. But because he's a Gourmet Demon, even if it is a supernova, hypernova, because the energy that comprises Neo still exists, guess what? He comes back after a few 100 million years. This applies, I think, to all Gourmet Demons. However, there is one massive caveat when it comes to Neo Demon itself. You see, Neo Demon, it does itself abide by the laws of conservation of energy. When it comes back to life, it utilizes said laws. However, Neo is able to literally erase all the energy that comprises a being out of existence, which prevents even Gourmet Demons being consumed by Neo to resurrect. Whatever creature Neo consumes, all of the energy comprising said creature is erased from existence. It is gone. Therefore, there is no chance of resurrection. Neo Demon is a freak. Goddamn freak, man. How the fuck? Dude. So, the one dude that Neo fucked with in this chapter, man. And then it was dirty, man. It was dirty. It was savage. Good lord. This guy, it was just fishing. It got a lot of fish. Like, yeah, I'm back to the village and party. Look at all the fish I caught. And what happens is, boom, a mound of corpses. The thing is freaking out. It's horrified, terrified beyond all belief. And Neo was waiting for that moment. As if Neo had purposefully set up all those corpses just to consume that one dude. To make him freak out. To reach that state of maximum fear and releasing the most dopamine in the brain. And then boom, yeah, no more. And when that dude was consumed, that dude has no chance of coming back. It's over, done. The energy that comprises of that being is erased from existence.